Hi! On the Woodpecker today, I'm starting a pantry for the cottage. For over 20 years, we have had this old metal wardrobe as a pantry at the cottage. For countless years, I have wanted to change it. Each footstep we take inside the cottage makes the doors rattle. Besides, it's super hard to slide the doors. So this is the year that I've decided that I've had enough. I'm going to do something. This is no sudden whim. This started 2 years ago when I cut down some birch trees near the cottage. It's all the wood I will need for the new pantry. I didn't take any chances and also cut all this birch into planks, just in case. We begin, as usual, with the bandsaw. But it's very heavy, hard to move around, and exhausting. So I decided to make another chainsaw mill to use only here. And since I've already built one, I know what to expect. This time I can avoid all the mistakes I made last time. Since I made it a little bit bigger, the saw can enter into it without any problem this time around. When it's ready, we bring it outside and cut planks. This is way easier than with the bandsaw. This is all the planks we managed to cut with the last batch we brought back last time. Now I just need to wait for this to dry. 18 months later, we bring down the oldest planks. I'll make the pantry with those. The very first thing I do is make sure the wood is dry enough to make a piece of furniture with it. Since I'm satisfied, I begin to surface some wood. For now, I will surface just enough wood for both sides of the pantry. About 3 hours later, I have one face and one edge straight on some planks of the pile. I need to plank the other face to a thickness of 22 millimeters. Finally, I have one nice pile of surface planks, but I will have many more to take care of later on. Now I can remove the uneven edges and cut all the rails and stiles. Since I need 4 raised panels for the sides, I also need to glue some planks for the raised panels. I make sure all the edges are straight and glue them together. While the glue dries, I can take care of the 4 long stiles. I kept 4 long planks just for that. All I need to do is to rip them a bit wider than what I need. After cutting the ends straight on all of them, I put them on top of the other and in one cut them all to the same length. But I need to finish the cut on the last one. I want to assemble the frames just like that. and join them with a domino. I will begin with the rails by cutting one end straight. Then with a stop, I cut all of them to the same length. Next, it's time to cut a chamfer on all the rails and stiles. Then it's possible to cut the domino mortises on all the pieces. So I mark them and cut them. Then I can make the 45-degree cut on the rails. For this, I also use a stop. Next, I remove the chamfer at the end of one stile. The router table is the ideal tool for this. Next, I make another 45-degree cut at the end. This is my very first corner. Since I'm super happy with it, I just need to cut all the others. To figure out where to make the 45-degree cut, I align it with the cut of the sacrificial fence. For the two central rails, I have to be super careful. I mark what I need to remove with the router and make sure the lines are visible far away. Then, with two stiles stuck together, I remove some wood. The finishing touch is made with a chisel. Now I can cut the grooves for the raised panels. The rails are cut right through. For the stiles, I begin near the mortise and stop before the next one. A normal domino is not long enough. So for this, I need to make my own. Now I can make a dry fit and measure the exact size of the raised panels and cut them. I begin by cutting one end straight. Then, with a stop, I cut them to length. After that, I rip them to width. Now that the four panels are at the right size, it's possible to cut the raised panel profile. This profile is cut in several passes. This is the first pass. If you look at the test piece I did before, it's obvious that there's a lot more to remove. To do so, I just have to push the guide closer to the center of the bit and make another pass. In all, I did 3 passes. When I'm done, I sand all the raised panels. This is a dry fit. I take this apart and glue it. In fact, gluing this is quite easy. I spread glue where both pieces meet, being very careful not to glue the raised panels, and put clamps. It's important to check if it's still square. I do the exact same thing for the other side. Now I just need to wait for the glue to dry. Meanwhile, I can surface most of the rest of the wood. After several hours, I have a pile of 22mm thick boards, some planks still rough for the drawer's front, a pile of 18mm thick, and another of 12mm. Even if all this wood has the required thickness, I still need to cut all the last edges. Then I can glue more panels. This is all I was able to glue before running out of clamps. While the glue dries, I'm going to take care of the remaining planks for the drawer's fronts. Surfacing all this took enough time that the glue is dry and I'm able to glue another bunch of panels. At the end of the day, the glue ups are dry enough so it's possible to sand everything I glued during the day. The next day, it's possible to start assembling the case of the pantry. I begin by cutting both sides to the right dimensions. Now I need the two interior fixed horizontal surfaces. The bottom in place. To make it easier for us to bring this to the cottage, the pantry will be in pieces. So I mark the locations of the holes for the strip locks joinery I'm going to use. With both sides clamped together and a 7mm bit, I cut the bottom holes. It's not easy to see the lines, so I have to back up frequently. To cut the center holes, I use a rail guide instead of the edge guide. For the horizontal parts, I cut the holes on the router table. In fact, those holes don't need to be super accurate in length. They just need to be long enough. The strip locks will be aligned on the central line. I use instant gel glue to glue them in place. When the glue is spread on both sides of the hole, I just need to push the female part of the strip locks in place. Then all this has to be repeated on the male part on the horizontal panels. Now I just need to wait for the glue to dry. Since it's instant glue, it dries pretty quickly. With a bit of help from René, we assemble the four pieces together. This way, I'm sure, this goes like that. Now I can mark where to cut the groove for the back of the pantry. To make sure the panels won't creep up on me, I use a feather board. But my saw blade is not wide enough for the plywood I intend to use for the back. so I move the fence and widen the groove. This is perfect. But I don't have a big enough piece of plywood on hand, so I will glue two pieces together. Now I just have to wait for the glue to dry. In the meantime, I can sand the sides. Yes, there are still pencil marks and glue squeeze out. This case still needs a top. It's time to take care of that. Now that it's at the right size, I need to make the holes for the strip locks. Next, I glue them in place. After all this, the glue is dry enough so I can cut the back. Then we put it in place, so I can trace its height and cut it. With the back in place, it's possible to put the top in place. After putting this up, it's possible to trace the placement of the back. Then we take all this apart. To be able to screw the back in place later on, I have to glue a piece of wood on the trace I made earlier. But I'm not done on the horizontal pieces. I want the sides to rest on more than just the strip locks. I'm going to add another layer under the bottom. But this doesn't need to be a solid piece of wood like my design. I glue a bunch of cutoffs together to make this layer. When the glue is dry, I just have to cut this to size. And this is what the bottom looks like now. But if you want to see how I will finish this pantry, you'll have to come back to the woodpecker.